Mike, so much of this movie is about how people look for kind of crazy ways in which to validate their work and their lives. And I just have to say, what's your Rotten Tomatoes score right now?
Oh my God. Yeah, I actually do know my Rotten Tomatoes.
And what is it?
It's 83%, which
Yay.
is, could be worse. But like the movie came out yesterday, and so like you get emails that are like, hey, box office updates, and like, okay, everything's good, but it's like one of the emails was like, and your audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is like really high, and I was like, is this another thing I need to like look at to like, I was just like, oh great, now it's something else to like check the wins of like, are we up? Anyway,
That's
it's
perfect.
embarrassing to be that person, but it's like being in a casino. Like, even if you're up, you're down. Like, you're up, but like, get out of the casino. Step away from the casino. You're gonna lose eventually. Get away from the casino. I don't know.
Mike, I want to ask you about a couple things that are going on in this movie, but I'm going to start by having a conversation about your dad, Mel, and at what point was he the inspiration for what you were writing, and at what point did everything around you that you were noticing about ways in which people you worked with and went to school with were measuring themselves against one another? Did those two things happen simultaneously, or did one precede the other?
Well, considering he's my dad, at what point was he the inspiration for a father-son movie? It's pretty far back ago, I guess. But my dad is a writer. When I was young, I saw that my dad had this relationship that was with like the world, or it's like you have your relationship with your wife and your kids and friends or whatever, but there was this other relationship that he had with like how he felt like he was, I don't know, how, like where he was with the world. And I realized that was like a real relationship for him. And I think people in this business can understand that. It's like it's a delusional relationship, but it is something that you like feel is something you take some kind of stock in, or you're like conscious of, and so that was something that I thought isn't explored a lot in movies. You have a lot of romance or whatever, like family stuff, but this thing of like, where's my status? Where do I stand? And does the world love me? And can I love the world even if the world doesn't love me? And those ideas. So yeah.
So Austin, when you read Mike's script, how do you connect to it? How does it land in your mind about something that you want to do and that you see a way into playing Troy?
I mean, for initially into wanting to do it, I mean, he's an incredible writer and director, and then Ben and the script was incredible. So I mean, that was a main kind of draw. And then I mean, honestly, like relate to it in a lot of ways. Like, even though Brad is supposed to be, mid, 40s or what have you. Like, I have those situations constantly in my brain where I'm just kind of comparing myself to, this person or, another, actor that's, my age or something. Because there's a lot of like, good ones now, or at least ones that I think that are good. So yeah, I could definitely relate to that. And then, and then what drew me to the character that he wrote is really the kind of maturity and the thoughtfulness that he had, which was like, really different as compared to like a lot of like, teenagers and they're on their phone and they're, I don't know.
That Troy has his shit together more than his dad does, basically.
Yeah, which I thought was, really interesting. An interesting, difference between them.
Jenna, Melanie is in a marriage that I think a lot of men and women wish they were in, and even when they're in it, they don't recognize it for what it is. When you read what Mike has written and what you think it has to say about a marriage, the way in which a marriage can work, and the way in which people don't really see what is right in front of them, how did you respond to it? What were the conversations you had with Mike about where you saw this marriage going and how it is working?
Well, when I read the script, the thing that I really loved about it is that a lot of times the wife is a pretty thankless role and an underdeveloped person whose job it is to just sort of like unconditionally, lovingly accept everything that her husband is doing. And while the character of Melanie is really accepting, it's coming from a different place. She's a full character. She's feisty and she fights for social justice causes. And the thing that I related to is that it kind of mirrors my own marriage, except that I'm Brad. My husband is Melanie. My husband is very self-confident and self-contained and is an independent person. And as I spin out in my multiple anxiety attacks and neurotic social anxieties, he just loves me and is separate from me and is able to be separate from me and allow me to be me, and he can be him. And I think it's rare in a marriage. I've not ever had a relationship or anything like that before, so it was exciting for me to see it on the page and then see it in a movie.
Have you guys
very healthy?
Have you and your husband watched the movie together?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
He loves the movie. Oh my gosh, he. Well, I mean, we love Mike. We love his work, and he loved it. And he will tell you that he is Melanie and that I am Brad. He knows. We both know it. That's why it works. That's all good.
Mike, at what point do you decide that this is a script that you want to direct, and what triggered that decision with this project?
I guess for me, it's like when it's more stressful to not direct it than to direct it is when I do it. Like, it's like sometimes like there's certain ones where I'm like, I know I'm gonna be on the set being like, that's how you're covering it? Really? Okay. I'll just be over here having a panic attack, whatever. So like with this one, I felt like the tone was very like specific and yeah, like, so I was like, I just felt like it would be more like try to get to manipulate a director into like doing it how I wanted some.
So rather than manipulate some other director, just manipulate yourself.
Yeah, I get it's just a
Mike, Austin, Jenna, thank you for making the movie. Thank you
so
guys
much
for sticking
everyone
around.
for
thank you
coming.
for